Good afternoon or good morning to you all, wherever you are in the world. I'm Melissa Richards, Director of Marketing here at 3 Enrollment Marketing. We'll give us just another minute for others to join before we get started with our webinar this afternoon. Okay, it's 2:01 here on the East Coast of the United States, so I'm going to jump right in. As I just introduced myself, I'm Melissa Richards, Director of Marketing here at 3 Enrollment Marketing. I'm your host today with our guest, Matt Hames. And if you've come to realize that the internet is a collection of databases rather than a collection of websites, and you need a new enrollment marketing roadmap built for AI as well as humans, then you're in the right place today. Welcome to today's webinar, From Feeds to Databases, your AI-ready enrollment marketing roadmap. Our strategist and speaker today is Matt Hames. Matt is Associate Vice President for Digital and Social Strategy here at 3E. He's also one of our co-founders, and he heads up our digital lab, delivering solutions such as the 3E Social College Influencer and the AI and Digital Roadmap Strategy, which he's going to talk about today. Matt brings experience from a variety of marketing agencies, as well as time at Colgate University. He and I both live in Hamilton, New York. And today is Matt's birthday. Happy
It
birthday,
is.
Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
Welcome. We look forward to your presentation. Just a couple of housekeeping items before I hand it over. I'll be monitoring the Q&A box for your questions. Feel free to drop comments and shout outs in the chat. And you probably heard the prompt at the beginning. We are recording today, and the recording will be available on 3enrollment.com, along with a library of other content after today. And now it's my pleasure to hand it over to Matt Hames.
Thank you so much, Melissa, and thanks for joining me, everybody. Um, the plan is to get you out of here by 2:30 Eastern, so we'll be here for a half an hour. A little bit about me. I am a curler. Yes, that is true. On top of all the other things that Melissa said, I'm also a curler, and I'm going curling tonight. It is the greatest social game that you can ever play in your life, and if you're interested, just Google curling near me, and there's probably a curling club that'll happily show you the game. It's super fun. It's the only Olympic sport that anybody can try and play and be okay. The Winter Olympics was basically young people throwing themselves down the hill or doing something with blades on their feet and then curling. So curling is a very fun and enjoyable thing. I'm also a dad of two young people. My daughter is in her second year at the University of Delaware, and my son will be a first year student playing soccer this fall. Super excited about that because we are both, my son and daughter and I, are fans of Arsenal Football Club. My dad grew up in North London, so I've got a little bit of London, Canadian, and US inside of me. So it doesn't mean anything. I also am super fascinated by how people search for things on the internet, how people look for things, and that's what we're going to talk about the most today. We're going to talk about how people search for things on the internet and how that is fundamentally changing and why that really matters to you. None of the other stuff like curling, Arsenal, and my kids matter to you. They matter to me. But what really matters to you is why people are searching, right? So not only why, but when do people search? That's a big question, right? So in the enrollment cycle, when do people search and what are they searching for specifically, right? So at the very beginning of the enrollment cycle, the industry, generate awareness with college fairs. The 3E solutions generate tremendous amount of awareness, right? So we have sent billions of pieces of content out to people over the last 6 years. And even if people don't open an email or read an email or click on an email, they are still becoming aware of the institution. So content that gets in front of students generates awareness, and that awareness generates behaviors. And so we're really interested in those behaviors. So that's at the very beginning of the enrollment cycle. Obviously, people come and visit. They come and visit an institution. They come for open house. They come for summer tours. They come for a number of different things in the awareness cycle. They also, of course, come for admitted student days. So what Melissa and I have been talking about a lot is, and what we talk about a lot at 3E, is how do we generate that awareness, and then how do we generate the behavior we're looking for among admitted students? How do we get people to come on campus? And what Melissa and I have been thinking a lot about is what do people see when they search digitally for your institution when they're newly aware? What do they see when they're much more aware? So when they're newly aware, they have questions. They don't know what those questions are. I'm really interested in this school. After they visit, they're like, well, now I have questions about the school. I'm a lot more interested. And of course, when they're admitted, they still have questions about the school. But obviously, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. These questions are different at different points in the enrollment cycle. And I think that's really interesting and worth thinking about a little bit more, right? So just back to the awareness part and the newly aware. So the newly aware, when you think about it, what used to happen is that, and it still happens on a massive level, is that when people are newly aware of something, they go to Google, right? They go to Google, and then because of Google taking off and search engines taking off, this thing called SEO became a thing. Search engine optimization became an important part. And what search engine optimization just really meant is when somebody searched for something, can my website, often my .edu, be at the very top, right? That's really what it comes down to. If your website, in our case, the .edu, if the .edu can be at the very top, then it's more likely people are going to click on it. If it's not found in search, so you're not optimized for search, then obviously people aren't going to click. So SEO was about trying to optimize a website so that when people search for something, it got found, right? And Google was the best at this, absolutely the best at this. That's why we say, I'm going to Google that. We don't say, I'm going to ask Jeeves that, or I'm going to Alta Vista that, or I'm going to even Bing that. Although I have heard people say I'm going to Bing that, and I want to give them a hug. But mostly what they do is they say, I want to Google that. Google won. And Google won because when you typed in something, the very first result was often the thing you were looking for, right? Very often that was the result. And you can see that, the world can see that, anybody can see that when they just Google something and see what the top result is, right? So here is a Google search for Harvard University. This is a desktop search. There's a lot going on here. It's a screenshot with a lot, right? But you can see a number of different things. But the first thing that you can see is in the top left-hand corner is the .edu with a couple of what are called site links, which you can't control. Nobody can control. Only Google can control those. But those are called site links. An institution like Harvard or your institution can control the page title on desktop. You can choose what that says. I've seen some institutions, because I Google a lot of institutions, I've seen a few institutions where their page title is homepage, which is the default. So, anytime you use the default, it just means that you're defaulting to what the norm, what everybody is. So maybe we want to think about that. But you can turn that into a call to action. And with partner institutions here, I give them plans on how to turn their page title and descriptions into more calls to action at different times in the enrollment cycle. This is another example. Just going to show you, as Melissa mentioned, I worked for 8 years at Colgate University. It was a very awesome time at Colgate because the president at the time was very entrepreneurial and experimental. He said, try things, try, fail. We did a Reddit AMA that made the front page of the internet, almost crashed our .edu. He was game for letting us try whatever we wanted to do and celebrate our wins and say, what did you learn from your losses? It was really awesome time, and I learned a tremendous amount. So this is a desktop view. Again, I think it's really super important for anybody in enrollment to Google their institutions at different times in the enrollment cycle. Leave yourself a note and say, I'm going to Google my institution, especially when applications open. And another key time is if you send a lot of admittance at once. If you send a batch admittance, you're going to get a lot of people Googling. It won't always be the student. It could be their parent. It could be their aunt. It could be grandma. Who knows, right? You never know who is going to Google the school, but people who surround the person are, the more that they are invested in that person, the more likely they are to Google. And those are all going to be influencers of the decision. So just knowing what they're going to see. One of the things you can always also do is on the SERP, which is the search engine results page, and it's a product that Google has. So Google has a higher education SERP specific for the US. If you're in Canada or if you're in Europe, it's a different product. It's an actual different product. It has a number of different things. The US one is specifically the US one, and then there's a rest of the world SERP. And actually, I should say that. I don't know because I haven't Googled every single country's SERP. So I don't know if there's a rest of the world one. I just don't. It's a lot, so I haven't Googled them all. But I've Googled many, and I can tell you that the US one is different. What you can do when you Google your school is take a look at the people also ask questions. So what Google is saying is that when people Google your school by name, and a lot of people do that, when they Google your school by name, they also ask, is Monsters University a good school? Or is Kogi University a good school? And that's code for what am I going to do with a degree from this school? Or what is my son and daughter going to do with a degree from this school? Or what is my niece or nephew going to do with a degree from this school? So is X school a good school is often one of the first questions that people ask, especially at this point in the enrollment cycle. At this point in the enrollment cycle, that is the number one question because people are trying to decide if they want to attend universities. In the fall, it's often a different kind of question. Depending upon the school, it might be what GPA do I need to get into? It might be variations of just some of the things that people know. Where is it? Those kinds of questions. So take a look in the fall and see what people are also asking. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like on mobile. It's a little magnified because I didn't demagnify my phone. I need my phone font to be pretty big because, as you can see, and I also have another birthday today, we're getting old and it's harder to look at our phones. So I made this a lot bigger. But here is the mobile version of a SERP, right? So this is, again, you're looking at scrolls for an old, but it's not that much different for a young person, I promise. And you have to get 4 scrolls down to get to the .edu, right? So this is for somebody who Googles the institution by name. So for somebody who Googles the institution by name. And there's a fascinating stat, right? So a couple of years ago in Universal Analytics, I looked through all of the Universal Analytics for 3E partner institutions, and I looked at the data. Google reports how many people searched for the institution by name. So Monsters University, Kogi University, Harvard University, etc. Right? So how many people searched for that by name on Google in a calendar year? So in a calendar year, how many people searched for the institution by name? right? So you take all that data, put it into a big spreadsheet. I did this by hand because it was kind of before AI. I did it by hand, put it into a giant spreadsheet, and I looked at the. It showed the number of people who searched for the institution by name, then the click-through rate, but it also showed the average position, and the average position, meaning the average position on the SERP. So you can see that on desktop, the average position is always 1. But on mobile, the average position is not 1. It's often 2-ish. Like, it's often the first website. So it is 1, but there's a lot of other things that are kind of before it. But it is still the first website. So the average position is often like 1.1 or 1.2. But, that's because it is the first quote website, but it's not the first thing that you can actually click on. It's not the first piece of information that you can click on. Anyway, I took all that information and I averaged it all out, and I got this number. So what it means is that when people Google an institution by name, 19% or 2 out of 8 people click on the .edu. So you saw, again, there's a lot going on a SERP, both on desktop and on mobile. And if only 2 out of 8 people who search for an institution by name click on the .edu, then those 8 are going in a number of different places, right? They're going in a number of different places. And it's not lost on anybody that that's not ideal. It's just not, that's not what you want, right? That's never been what we want. That's not what we want at all. But guess what? It's actually even worse. It's getting even worse now. And the reason is, Melissa said this in her introduction, and it's in the title of this webinar, and that is that the CEO of Google, CEO of Alphabet, which runs Google, said this in August 2025, which is almost a year ago, which blows my mind. So after Google I/O, he said on a podcast called Decoder, which is by The Verge magazine, which is a great techie magazine, big plug, and Decoder is a great podcast. It's a lot of fun. It's really super interesting. But he comes on every year after Google I/O, and he said this, and I was going for a run, and I heard him say this, and I just stopped, and I stared at the sky for a minute, because like this, literally, and I'm not making this up, this stopped me in my tracks, because we grew up on an internet that was based on Google finding websites. That's how SEO, that is the very definition of search engine optimization. You want to optimize your website so a search engine finds it. If the CEO of the thing that we use all the time for search is saying that the internet is not a collection of websites, but is in fact a collection of databases, then what he is actually saying is we're just going to go get the information and bring it back to a person. And honestly, if you look at the mobile SERP, they've been doing that for a while anyway. They haven't been driving people to websites. They've been driving people to data as you kind of look. So the SERP has been the canary in the coal mine of databases, saying there's a bunch of data out there. There's a bunch of questions that people are asking, and there's a bunch of ways that we can get those answers in front of people. So when somebody types in Colgate University into a search engine, depending on the time of the year, they're really saying, I have questions about Colgate University. I don't know what those questions are. Can you give me those answers? And the SERP, the search engine results page, is trying to answer every single one of those questions at every moment in the enrollment cycle. None of that is ideal, right? So I tell you all this because there is a chance we are on every single .edu. We are at Alta Vista 0. We're at Yahoo 0. We're at Lycos 0. We're at Bing 4%, right? Whatever. I mean, Bing still draws some traffic to a .edu. But will we ever get to Google 0? Well, you can find out. So you can actually check, right? You can use these slides and just go to your web team and say, hey, you know what? Can you do a search for me on our Google Analytics and look at 2025 to 2026? Pick any time. I just picked the last 12 months here, March 1st to March 1st. You could pick December 1st to, or you could pick Jan 1 to Jan 1 and do a comparison, right? So you could do a comparison and then do like pull that year's worth of data and pull the previous year's worth of data of user acquisition and see, right? So here's kind of what it looks like. This is 25 to 26, right? March 1st, 2025. So 460, almost 500,000 new users to the .edu from search, right? In 2025, 2026. That's from Google, right? It's pretty much, it's not coming from Ask Jeeves. It's coming from Google. This is the previous year amount of people coming from Google. And I know I'm not awesome at math, so I did the math for you. That's down 44%, and that's one client. That doesn't mean that you are down 44%. It doesn't mean that the industry is down 44%. I've seen some of our partner institutions down 10%. But I do think that in this year, as we get more used to it, as we get more used to using an AI, as Google pushes us more to, as Google pushes more answers to just the basic questions of what is it like if somebody just Googles an institution by name, then what we need to do is think hard about what those databases are, right? So in case we do approach Google 0, let's look at what those databases are currently, right? So let's start with the chronological social platforms. A chronological social platform just means that, when we started these, and oh, by the way, we started them. So your university probably has like 75 Facebook pages, if you're lucky. Maybe 47,000 Instagram feeds because athletics. And so you only have one LinkedIn though. That's the good news. You only have one LinkedIn. You have only one of those. LinkedIn is pretty good about just automatically adding people to it too. So it's a decent assumption that you probably only have one, max two. I've seen a couple of schools who have three. I've tried to talk them out of every single one of those extra ones. But for the most part, you have one. Chronological social platform just means that if you post something on August 1st, 2025, it is almost impossible to see it on March 18th, 2026. Because chronologically, you have to scroll back too far. So something that is posted on February 1st is hard to see on March 18th. That's all it means by chronological social platforms. To get in front of people, you have to post on a pretty consistent basis. Then there's your non-chronological digital platforms. And these are the ones, so the ones on the left are not accurate data-based content. And even Meta, even the Meta AI, which really is bad, doesn't pull information from Meta. So the non-chronological social platforms, YouTube doesn't care when the thing was uploaded. It could be 5 years old, and it'll say, hey, you want to watch this thing from 5 years ago? And you're like, sure. These are directional, so Google Maps, Apple Maps, and Waze, which is owned by Google, but it's still a different platform. These are non-chronological. If you have content on these, they pop up when people are looking. It's not chronological. Wikipedia and Wikidata, these are non-chronological digital platforms, obviously. Wikipedia, you're not allowed to update. Wikidata, I entirely encourage you to go update it. And in fact, so does Wikidata. It has just the facts of your institution, and it might not be you. Find the librarian, find a techie librarian, buy them lunch and say, can you update Wikidata every year for us, please? The number of students, the number of faculty, the number just the numbers. It's a really interesting place. Reddit, I'm not saying go on Reddit, but it is a non-chronological social platform. What you could do, Reddit has a new Ask Reddit function. You don't have to be logged in. You can go to Reddit and say, tell me about your school, and it will tell you, it will give you this whole output of people talking about your school on Reddit. It's kind of amazing, and it's worth looking at. And again, not chronological. And then your .edu, which is definitely not chronological. So I'm only going to show you one, and I'm going to show you one really fast. So you're going to get these slides so you don't have to take notes. Yes, YouTube is massive. This is massive. This is 3 Enrollment Marketing's YouTube channel. You can put a ton of different links inside of this and tell YouTube, which is owned by Alphabet, which also owns Google, what the most important sites on your .edu are. So you can have your chronological social platforms. You can have your how to register for a tour, a whole bunch of content on there. It's awesome. You should do it. This is so critical to telling the company that says everything is a database where to look on the database is pretty dope. So when you upload a video, you can make sure that you have a description that uploads every single time with a whole bunch of your content. And I do 30-minute videos on just YouTube, so there's so much more. Make sure chapters are on. Chapters is super, super critical, but I'm going to show you the most critical thing, featured places. Your institution is a place. It's an actual place. Like you have buildings in an actual place that's on Google Maps and Apple Maps, and you have content within. So turn on featured places and say, this happened inside of the science building. This happened inside the library. This happened inside of the dining hall. And locate the video inside that, and make sure you have featured places turned on. When you locate the video inside on a location, at an actual location, what you're doing is you're putting a video on the internet and you're locating it in a way that the databases say, this is an important piece of content. Why? Why is it better than a Facebook video? I'm glad you asked. A Facebook video does not get location data and it is chronological. So it's gone in 3 weeks. On YouTube, the video is located in the actual place the video happened, which is on your campus. So when somebody says, tell me about dining at Monsters University, and you have a video of the chef talking about dining or a student talking about dining or whatever, then it's going to pull that transcript and answer the question in a way you want that question answered. Yes, it's that easy, and it is that true. It will happen. I almost guarantee it. I'm not in the complete guarantee business. I'm in the mostly guarantee business, but I'm telling you that located content is better than chronological content for LLMs. Melissa and I talked a long time, so if you're watching this on your phone, I'm sorry. If you're watching this on your desktop, pull out your phone and just grab this QR code and watch our conversation about this. It's only a 10-minute conversation. It's a lot of fun. It's a simple little conversation about understanding all this stuff. We are on the cusp. We are developing a solution to understand both how to win the newly aware, the recently visited, and the recently admitted, both in person and digitally. And we think we know the answers to how to do that. And we think we can help anybody who is interested in doing that. So, 3 takeaways, and then we're done. Will our behavior change? Will we stop using Google? Well, I showed you. You can just go get your analytics and see. Like if people are coming to your .edu less this year than they were last year, then yes, people's behavior is definitely going to change. How's it going to impact higher ed? I think it's so critical to fill the databases that LLMs are going to use, and Google's Gemini and Google's SERP are going to use to answer those questions. We're all worried about hallucinations. If you have videos located in a place and people are asking about that place, they're going to read the transcript and they're less likely to hallucinate. That's just true. That is a thing that you can control. And then how can you surface content? I just gave you like one idea on YouTube. There's so many more ideas. There's like, again, in the solution that we're developing or in the roadmaps that I give to partner institutions at 3E, I go into every single one of those dashboards and talk about how to how to maximize your content for an AI world. We're going to be talking about this a lot at the Institute for Higher Education. It's happening June 1st to 3rd in Rhode Island. I'm told it's a week before Taylor Swift gets married in Rhode Island. I hear it's a big deal. I don't know, but I'm told it's a big deal. So you should come. We're going to talk about this and more. It's the 6th year of the Institute for Higher Education, and it's going to be amazing. And that is it. 31. I'm sorry I went over a minute, but if you have any questions, I will happily answer them now.
That's awesome, Matt. Thank you so much. I love the nugget. Turn on featured places in YouTube. And I know that's one little tiny nugget
Yeah,
in the
right.
large roadmap of that you deliver for clients. I'm curious how that relates to the importance or the benefits of always having fresh content in map and location platforms. Should colleges and universities be uploading photos, videos, et cetera, to Google Maps and Apple Maps and
Yeah, so
platforms
great
such as
question.
that?
So the featured places part of YouTube connects to those Google My Business places. And so your video on YouTube might actually appear in the location on Google Maps when that's turned on, and vice versa. So in a YouTube video, the place might sit inside the description, and people can just click on the place. And so yes, Melissa, uploading content to those platforms is one of the most important things, I think, for actually preparing yourself for a world of AI, but also for people, because that content will get pushed to people when they are on their way for an in-person tour, when they're on their way to an admitted student day. And just one last thing is on business.google.com, you can actually make event posts. So you can make an event post for your admitted student day and upload 10 photos or 10 29-second videos or 5 photos and 5 29-second videos. By the way, it's not my fault. It has to be under 30 seconds. It's their rule. So you can absolutely add content. And when I work with the partner institutions here, I suggest that they at least add content at the key moments in the enrollment cycle, when applications open, when when the most of the admitted when you start to send out admittance, and then in the summertime when you want people to come and visit for a summer visit and kind of walk around campus and experience the campus. So yeah, super important, and I spend a solid 45 minutes on that in the roadmaps that I give our clients because there's so much.
Fantastic. Thank you. And that's a great point. For everyone out there listening, Matt and I are going to be hosting some future conversations and talking about the importance of AI and search and content in relation to campus visits, both the
Yeah,
digital campus visit and the physical campus visit. So look for those
and
coming
pull out your
soon.
phone and
And
subscribe to the 3E channel, and you'll get notified when we're talking about all this stuff.
it's great. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Matt, for
Thank
being
you.
here today. As I mentioned, we'll send out the recording and you'll be able to find it at 3enrollment.com in our library of content. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.